hello, hey, it's me and the hubby, I decided to take on, you don't have to, the title of disability. Like, I was like, I'm disabled, you know, and how freeing that was for me, and how taking that on just really like flipped a switch for me. It really allowed like all of the expectation that I had in my head literally my entire life just melt away. One, and then two, the expectations that I felt from other people, even that I was like, doesn't really matter. If I'm like, oh, I wonder if so-and-so thinks it's and it helps me to be like, oh no, I just can't do that, or to take more breaks when I'm with someone else and just be like, oh no, I need to sit down. No, I need to do this.
Like less trying to appease what either they are actually actively expecting of you or what you think they may be expecting of you subtly. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Gotcha.
So it just like made my life a billion times easier, to be honest. And I was like, oh, wasn't expecting that. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more heavy and be like, oh no, I'm disabled. And I don't know, but I don't feel any of those things really. I don't think. Do I ever talk about anything like that? Do I talk about it negatively is the question. Like, am I like, oh, no, I'm disabled and it's a label. And I'm like, ooh, that's a weird label to have. You know what I mean?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you've talked about how other people might feel that way.
And even me, like, trying to... Here, put it to my mouth, thanks. Even me trying to, like, think as, like, a kid and stuff, I was always so worried about, like, how am I supposed to work and keep up? And I always felt like I couldn't keep up, and I was... I don't know, like sometimes someone would call me lazy or something, and I'm like, I can't be lazy because I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard, and I just can't do what other people can do. And now it's like, no, I really can't. I really can't do what other people can do. And I feel like that was so like freeing for me in my mind and my experience, because I was putting this pressure, not even like I was putting so much, I was just trying to keep up. I was trying so hard to keep up, and I was drowning. And now that I'm not trying so hard to keep up, I'm not drowning. So it was more freeing for me to like sit myself down and go, honey, calm down, sit down, take a second. Or like even how much time and energy and effort I have to put in every day or every week or whatever to keep myself going, you know, and to get myself even semi-comfortable, semi-functional is like, oh, now it's like it's literally like I flipped the script, because now I'm so impressed with what I've done despite how I am. I'm so impressed with how much work and energy and how much knowledge I've gained, and how seriously I take my health, and how I can get myself from one end of the spectrum to the other. You know, like being out of the hospital and not doing well, real skinny, couldn't put on any weight, couldn't walk barely at all. I was in a wheelchair, and then I could walk a little bit, and now it's like I can do a little run.
You were down. Yeah, you were down in bed like practically 24/7.
Yeah, and I tried to learn. I pushed myself to do the things, within my limits, but it's still like, trying to come back from that it's a bit of a push. And like someone said in the comments, they were like, just the fact that you lived and did all of that was like, you are a survivor. You tried and you pushed to do those things. And that's something I feel like, girl, you're right. Thank you for telling me. I am proud of myself for being able to get through something that not everyone experiences, and especially not at my age with my circumstances. You get it. But the majority, maybe not so much.
It's different if it's like something that you knowingly, got yourself into and took on, and you have obligations to fulfill and stuff like that. Which, obviously you can try to find ways to still be able to fulfill those obligations.
Can you give us an example of what you're trying to say?
Well, like, for example, obviously you got married, and there are certain things that, you do have to kind of do, in general, I guess.
Right, marriage is work.
So.
It's not a passive thing for most people.
Yeah.
Split the house chores and spend time with each other and work on your relationship. Marriage is work.
Yeah.
She's work.
But that's not the same as like someone that knows your circumstances and what you're going through, or maybe they don't, but they are not trying to. And they're just kind of expecting you, like, I'll give you an example. Something simple as just being able to hang out as friends and stuff like that. Where like if it's at their house or somewhere specific, and you just don't have the circumstances to go do that. The energy,
maybe
to fulfill
you're not good
that.
in cars.
Yeah. But it's like, if you don't do that, to them it's just like, oh well,
Right,
you're not
they're
a
no
good,
longer committed.
you're not a good friend.
Yeah.
You're just looking out for you.
Yeah.
Well, in a way that's true, but not in that sense. So, sorry.
Yeah, like maybe they just can't commit to that kind of relationship. It's not the kind of relationship that they want, and so maybe they're a little bit more outsies in that relationship. I think I kind of get what you're saying.
Basically, my point of all that was just like, it just puts an unnecessary extra burden on you trying to keep those friendships afloat, you know, because they don't want to take any sort of responsibility, I guess, in knowing and understanding more of your situation and your limitations, you know. And so it just puts unnecessary pressure on you, and it just makes all the things that you already deal with worse, like the symptoms and stuff.
Yeah.
Even mentally and emotionally, let alone physically.
Yeah, because I'm trying to live up to, like, well, everyone else, you know, they can keep all the other friends. They're a great friend. They do all these things. They have, you know, parties and da-da-da, and everyone else loves them. But when I hold myself to a different standard of going, well, I'm disabled, it's just not the same. Yeah. It's not the same for me, and that's okay. There are other friends that will work, but like that in like all the situations of my life, like that just works out so much better mentally. And in turn, my decisions are different. My internal dialogue is a lot different, you know? And even how I deal with other people, or even what I take on. Oh, can we talk about this? Let's keep going. Let me tell you a little bit about this story with George and Jessica. Names have been changed to protect the innocent to proven guilty. No, it's not that crazy of a story, but this is like one of those examples that we can talk about. So when I got out of the hospital, my husband was going to stay with me, and he didn't have a job that he could just stay with me and continue to work. So obviously we needed cashola. We needed money to like eat, survive, continue to pay for where we lived. So there's plenty of options, you know, and not like a plethora, but we looked for some jobs that he could do at home. But I was a big task to take care of when I first got out of the hospital. So that was a bit much. And then 2, we looked into things like disability, things like that, right? And I'm a little bit familiar with disability because, in case you don't know, my mom was on disability before she passed away. So I'm a little bit familiar. I also have some friends and stuff on disability. Okay, like it's not the newest thing to me. So I'm talking about it, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna go for disability, and I'm telling this to Jessica. And Jessica is like, she's great and bare, and she's literally, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm just saying, like, something that I'm gonna do, me and my household. I'm just talking, we're friends, so I'm just, talking about what's going on in my life. And Jessica is just appalled that I am even talking about disability. Why? You run into people and they have all sorts of opinions on you and yours, and you're like, oh, honey, that's not your responsibility. Calm it down. There could be a lot of reasons why someone could be like, no, but she felt like that this was just a season in my life, a short term, and that I was going to be able to work soon. And she really wanted me to, like, you're gonna be okay. Like, this is the start of you being okay, and you're gonna be able to work, and it's gonna be great. You don't need disability. Which, even if that's true, we still have some time. It took, one of my doctors said to me, knife in my heart, but also it was very healing. I needed to hear it because my brain was just like, why aren't I better yet? And I was putting a lot of like, either something's still really, really wrong and that's why I'm not getting better, or I'm not doing it right. And she was like, girl, honey, are you not realizing how long you took to get here? Your body is like down here and it's taken years. It's going to take years for you to get back up here. That doesn't mean it's not possible, just it's going to take time, okay? So, in the meantime, what am I doing to pay for my groceries? Now, before we say anything more, I'm going to tell you a little bit about George. Recently-ish, right? So I've been out of the hospital. That happened quite a bit ago. I've been out of the hospital. I can now walk. I'm doing some stuff. I can talk. What else do I do? I can fold laundry, and I can do little baby girl push-ups every once in a while, okay? Like, I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere. I am getting better. Now, if Jessica came to me today, I'd be like, okay, Jessica, I see that you see that I can do a couple things, but you don't realize how much functionality I still don't have because I am disabled.
And how much it takes to do those things.
Yes, right. How much energy, effort, help it takes to do those things. Right. Thank you. Thank you, husband. You understand.
And that's by your own standards, not someone else's.
Right. It's by, Jessica's standards of what you can do so much. Okay, thanks, Jessica. It's
well,
not
I'm not just her, but I'm saying, like, even by, like, if you were to say work for someone else, you know what I mean? Like, work a job that you are expected to do this, and this by this, you know what I mean?
Right, because your value to it is to a job and to an employer is that you can make the money, not that you can like rest and recoup and blah, 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 blah. In my opinion, my experience. Also, Jessica does not have much experience working. I do have some experience working, and experience working with this body, okay? And I could never work full time, and I've actually had to leave a job before because I went into it. I worked there for like a couple years or something, and I went into it, and I was like, I'm part-time, I'm always going to be part-time, and I will do my best, to make it worth me being part-time. And I worked like, between 18 and 30 hours. Like, I tried to match whatever and do the best that I could, with what I got. That's all I can do. Anyways, and eventually they were like, we really want to make this a full-time position. And of course it's open to you because you've been doing it. And I was like, I can't. And it was really hard for me to make that decision at the time. Well, it wasn't that hard because I knew I couldn't do it because I had tried. There was a couple weeks that I had tried to work 35 to 40 hours. And I was like, I had to take a 2-month break afterwards. I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me. I really could not do it. And like really being able to try so hard and trying to be like, balanced with what I was doing and build myself up. It wasn't like, oh, I couldn't do that and have a social life. It was like I couldn't do that, period. I didn't really have a social life at the time. So the moral of the story is, Jessica, that I have tried to work before I went to the hospital and came out and had lost a lot of functionality because of complications, blah, 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 blah. And here we are still trying to work up. And I still don't feel like I'm as functional as I was when I was working at my last job. And my very last job when we got married, I think I was only working like 15 to 18 hours a week.
I think so.
So nothing to write home at. And to be honest, the amount of energy it took out of me for, a couple dollars an hour for 10 hours a week, it wasn't worth it. Now, was it?
Yeah, because like the thing is like even for a normal person, because you were working in like a warehouse kind of situation on hard concrete floors, for someone that doesn't have to deal with the things that you deal with, that can be taxing. So for you, someone that does deal with the things that you deal with, that's like extra strain, extra sapping of your energy and stuff. So
yeah, my life quality, my life force, gonesies for $10 an hour. Yeah. Not really worth it. I mean, it is, but I did like the job, which I think is partially why I held on to it, and because working was really good for my mental health. I like to work. I like to be productive. I like to feel like I have a little bit of a purpose from week to week at a little jobby poo. But all in all, it wasn't worth it. Even when I worked there, I had started going downhill. That was why it was my last job. And I remember talking to some of the practitioners at the time, and they were all like, is there any way you don't have to work somewhere with concrete where you're on your feet all day? This is not that great. This is not that great for you and where you are right now. And I was like, uh-oh. So I tried to get around it, but you can only do what you can do. And I wasn't really as useful, resourceful. I wasn't getting as much done as all the other warehouse workers there. Now, I talked to George. George was like, you know what you need? No, what, George? Go ahead, just tell me, And George was like, you need to be on disability. That's really what you need. Now let's talk about disability. Okay, one, disability takes a hot second to get on, and it's almost like having another job, especially with my energy. It's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of like doing stuff on their timetable and like following up with people because they act like they don't want you to have disability. I don't know. I can't really say that. I can't talk for how they feel. But I can say is that they dropped the ball a lot with my case. I can say that because that was my experience. And I had to light a fire, as they say, to get some things done. And then, you miss one deadline over scratch finito. Not to mention that you also have to qualify for disability.
Going through that process, we came to understand that even people that like we would think, like, for example, or even maybe anyone would think like, oh yeah, no brainer, they should have disability. Like, they've had to try several times to apply, they get rejected, or however you want to say that. Which
is part of the thing they tell you. Like, if you Google this, read it in any of those forum discussion chat rooms, you talk to someone who has it, they usually will decline. They will
reject
your first application, and then you have to they say it's better to get an attorney involved and then to go against you. What is it called when you go against a rejection? I cannot think.
Appeal.
Thank you. Appeal. You have to appeal and do that whole process. And also, it takes a long time. When I'm reading in those discussion forums, they're like, I've been trying for years. I don't have years to wait so that I can pay for my groceries. And I feel like we're in a decent position. We had money saved up because we were just in that kind of place. We had just paid off our cars. We didn't live somewhere super high rent, thank goodness. And then we had like a couple $1,000s in savings. We were okay if our situation wasn't like this, which is another thing that we have to talk about, because I feel like now moving forward, I'm like, ooh, we need to set things up differently because I'm different. Trying to get me back on my feet after I got out of the hospital was like, it was a lot more money, a lot out of pocket. And then we also didn't have any income coming in. Our money, it took like maybe 6 months. We're not on disability, we're on something else, but same concept. And maybe it took 6 months for everything to like get finalized and come in. And still, we were like gonzies of all of our savings by then. Just trying to keep up with just the few bills that we had. We didn't have people have like inflation of living and living within your means. Like, we did not have a lot going on. We did not have a lot of extracurriculars. The only extra thing that we had was my horse, which we did sell and get rid of, and we also moved her to a different place. But even that, usually people pay maybe like $600-700 for stable board a month, and we were paying less than $200. So it was not a huge expense. It's more than some people pay for their internet and cable. So, and we tried to find a situation for her that was best and as quickly as possible with what we knew at the time. And that's the other thing, is like, you don't know how long it's going to take for me to get better, or if he can get another job or whatever. And then someone messed up our paperwork and we lost our benefits, everything coming in for so many months. Lost all my insurance in the middle of needing insurance, all this craziness. Not my best couple of months. I was not a happy camper.
We had like several things all happen at once, as far as like an increase in our normal bills. Inflation, first of all. I think our rent had increased for where we were presently at, and because of what she was going through, she had to be careful, like even more careful than she was previously with her diet. Like, there was so many more restrictions. We like had to reincorporate things into her diet, and of different quality too, to be on the safer side.
If you're a histamine girl, and then you don't want to do a lot of leftovers, so it has to be a lot of fresh food, because anything that's been sitting has more histamines. In case you don't know, that's a golden thing to know. If you have any histamines, any rashes, any itching, it might be a histamine issue. So just, Google it. I don't know.
Guess what that means? More fresh food that you have to buy. You have to buy different quality food, period. All of that is just, it's more expensive. So all of those things just hit us all at once. Even just our regular expenses were still increasing.
Because everyone's was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the doctors. We had to pay, what, $2,000 to $4,000? I don't even remember anymore. I was mad about it. I think it was 2,000 some to get on the list, and you had to agree to pay 4,000, and you paid the other 2,000 during the first year of seeing the doctor. I believe that's how it worked. But it was like, this was the doctor I had to see. Not all doctors can run all tests. So if you're like, oh, I've done all the tests, you've done all the tests that those doctors can do. So I went to functional doctor, and a functional doctor has extra training, extra la 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 la, and they can run different tests. It's going to cost you a pretty penny though. So now we're like paying thousands of dollars just to get seen, just to get on the list, the waiting list of this kind of doctor. And you know, and for me particular, that was not a great experience for me either. So it was quite a waste of money, and I have to try to hold myself back to be like, you know, we did what we could at the time and with the knowledge we had, and everyone was encouraging us to go there, blah, blah, blah. It just wasn't the best experience for me. Whatever. Moving on in life. Sometimes beggars can't be choosers. And in this instance, there weren't a lot of options, and that was the doctor to go to, and I was a beggar to live. Please. Let's go back to George. So George says, you know what you need? You need to be on disability. And I'm like, George, do you know anyone on disability and how many monies they got every month? George said, you know what I do? They got about $1,000, $1,500. And I was like, George, you think I can live on that these days? Even if I live with my parents and don't pay rent. Let's say I do that. Let's say I use one of their cars, don't have one of my own. Let's say I, you know, get on one of those things, Snap or something, pays for my grocery bills, helps me out. All of these things, even if I did everything right, do you think that I could live on $1,500, me and my husband, because I'm married? So he can't make but so much. I can't make but so much. You can't have so much assets or things in your bank account. It'll get kicked off real quick. And George, what happens if I get kicked off real quick? Now I don't have nothing set up for me, and I can't have a savings account. I got no cushion. And George, let's just talk about quality of life. What if I don't want to live off of everybody else for the rest of my life? What if I want to do something that costs money, like go to one of them restaurants for dinner, or go to one of them movie theaters, see one of them pictures up on the screen? George, or what if I want to have a horse again? I'm going to need to make more than $1,500. And George real quick went, yeah, you're not doing nothing on with that. I said, yeah, George, I ain't. Yeah. I ain't. So it's like it's a good option, and yet it's not. It's like the only option, and yet it's not.
Like if that was something that we could have as a supplemental thing, like if I was able to find something that I could do with our circumstances, namely work from home so that I could care for her. But you know, if it was something like that situation, that could work.
So back to me in my brain going, okay, I'm disabled. I don't need to live up to Jessica's standards and be like, well, I need to get ready and back in shape and everything and be pristine so that I can go sit at a job 9 to 5 or whatever the job is, go back work in my warehouse, whatever.
That's the thing, is that your things actually affect you both sitting and standing. So it's like, even if it was like a desk job, so to speak, and not something like what you were doing in the warehouse, it would still be like detrimental to you.
Right. So let me get real good, real better, real quick on your timetable, on life's timetable, because I need to pay bills, right, Jessica? So that I can work. Quality of life, honey. What is that? Anyways, or let me turn to George and go, look, I want more out of life, and maybe doing something like disability or whatever for a moment, a period in our life could be good, but it is not my eternal goal for me and mine, you know. And it really just hushed my brain to be like, well, I can explain to Jessica or not. And I really didn't explain that much to Jessica. I did have 2 seconds of a talk with George, like I said, like, George, do you know, I don't think I can live on that. And George agreed. And that was great and easy, fine conversations. Really, both conversations were fine. But both conversations were me just being like, do I really need to continue having this conversation? No, because it's me and mine, and me and mine know our goals, our situation, and my disability and how it works to the most part. And I don't need to put that pressure on myself. I really don't need it to feel so much better. And I want to also not be like, oh, I'm disabled, I have to live on disability and just call it a day, because I want a bigger quality of life even though I'm disabled. You see what I'm saying here? Like, it's just a much different thing going on in my head. So the moral of the story is, it was so useful to have that thought process of, wait, I'm disabled, I don't need to live up to any expectations or the kind of life that an able-bodied person would live up to. And when I had the thought of like, okay, how would I want to live this life and give myself space to be disabled, that allowed me to think of the kinds of things that I wanted to do, the kinds of things that I felt like I could do, and the way that I wanted to do it that was going to be most comfortable for me, and to be able to take advantage of some of those things along the way. Like right now, yeah, we're not on disability, but we're on something similar, and that's okay for right now, but it's not the whole goal, you know. And I'm able to take advantage of those things because I'm going, well, hey, I'm disabled, I should go out for this or that, you know. It doesn't have to be that crazy. Just me and my experience, my thoughts. What about you?